Oh yeah. How is it in y'all's world right now? We are back and we are about to hit back. So it is a good freaking start to the week, to say the least. And man, there's something different about this kind of split, doing just a regular old bro split. It just gives me a lot more rest on this cut, which I do prefer. Like, honestly, I've been kind of going through just a lot of stuff with my business, and so kind of having this extra rest just 2 days consecutively during the weekend really helps, just to kind of reset and come back with a force into the week. So that being said, it is good to see y'all again, and like I said, it is a good old-fashioned back day, so I am looking forward to it. I think if I'm judging from the last back day with what we're going to be doing, it's going to be something along the lines of 2 rows and probably some sort of armpit based action mixed with probably a pull down, something like that. That is what I'm predicting. And honestly, we haven't done pull-ups in a long time, so I would like to just kind of test out how many pull-ups I have in the tank today. And I'm gonna be honest, I probably won't get a lot just because my strength has been dwindling just a little bit on this cut. But that being said, it might balance out with the fact that I'm a little bit lighter now. I think we're sitting at, last time I weighed in, I was 211.2. Now my weight's been kind of jumping a lot throughout the weeks, but that's kind of a good thing. That means that I'm processing the nutrients really efficiently. So I am pretty happy with how the cut has been going. Now, with everything on the meditation side of things, it's been a lot of fun. It's kind of like a place where it just kind of becomes a little more effortless every time, if that makes any sense. And I think it's the same thing with lifting. The more you lift, kind of the easier it becomes, because it's such a built-in habit at that point. And so it's kind of the same thing with the meditation, where I'm getting into this space where I don't really need to feel any way, think any way, or perceive any way. It's just kind of this space where I just need to direct my attention to the mantra, let the rest take care of itself. And it's kind of interesting, because when I get into that directed attention mode, I tend to just remind myself that everything that's happening right now, good or bad, it's all gonna pass. It's all gonna, have its season, if you will. Every good feeling, every bad feeling, I guess good and bad are just artificial constructs, like you don't really, like the only good and the only bad is whatever you make of it, because it's kind of like a label that we give to the event itself. Now, obviously, there are there are things that are probably not good and probably not bad. Anyways, I'm kind of getting off track there. But anyways, we got a big old back day, and I've been kind of just toying with the fact that it's gonna be a lot of fun, because it's almost like a moment where I have complete freedom. And I feel that with, a few different things. Namely, right now, meditation, lifting, and my business. Although my business is, requires a lot of work in order to, just have it run smoothly, it is a place for me to just kind of run wild in a, so to speak, because it's not like anybody is telling me where to be, how to be, in order to make money. It really is kind of this creative space for me And then obviously, you have a lot of the admin work that takes a lot of the time, and that's when you kind of outsource it. So I have somebody who does my video editing, somebody who does, my taxes, somebody who does a lot of the numbers side of the business, so you kind of outsource those things so that you can be a lot more, so you can almost see the business from this third eye perspective, like this, what is that called? Like you want to see where the crow flies. I forget how that saying goes, but it's like you just want to see it from like a zoomed out lens so that you can see what the business needs so that it can improve. And that's kind of the CEO's mission. That's kind of what you need to do in order to make sure that the business is not only running smoothly, but that it's scaling the way that it needs to in order to truly be successful. So I thought that was kind of interesting, but that is one of my areas right now of freedom, because to me, I think that's what everybody is really after. They're, money's great, having, the physique that you want is great, having the relationship you want is great, but at the end of the day, they're all symbols of freedom, and almost like asking the question, how free do you want to be? And what's the path in this part of your life so that you can be the most free? And so I think of a lot of things in that way, and when I started thinking of things in that way, it started to become a little clearer on what I needed to do in order to create almost like a freer life in each one of those areas of my life. So, like relationship-wise, if you want to be the most free, then you probably need somebody who has good ethics. They're always honest with you. You have some sort of attraction to them. I could go on and on about all this stuff and ways to feel the most free in a lot of these different aspects of my life. But I think it's kind of cool that it all started with movement in general, because at the end of the day, I just love to freaking move. It didn't matter what I was doing. It didn't matter that I was in soccer growing up, I was in Taekwondo growing up. It was just the fact that I got to move that was the most freeing part of it. And I think that's a pretty cool thing to think about. It's not, everybody kind of has their own starting point. For example, I'll leave him to be anonymous, but let's just say a friend really loves to read, that's their starting point for how they identify with freedom. And so I think, a lot of what life is about is finding ways to be free in every aspect, physically, mentally, financially. You might even argue, if you are to go down this route, I guess just, I want to say spiritually, but I feel like there's a better word for it. It's almost like, I kind of stumped myself there. I don't really know what another word for it is. It's just kind of, almost like you don't identify with anything else. Like you don't identify physically, mentally. Like you can just be the way you want to be, and you don't have to depend on anything. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. It's almost like the freedom to just let go. Like that is, I guess, the whole crux of what I'm getting at. Now, I guess bringing it to a more relative term to today, we're gonna see how free we can set my back, because I'm just trying to get it to be freaking huge and strong. More so huge. I mean, the strength is great. I love it, but I don't know. It's almost like bodybuilding is just kind of like what painting is to Michelangelo. You know, bodybuilding would be like that. I'm not calling myself Michelangelo, but I'm saying, you know, the passion that I have for bodybuilding, you know, it kind of falls in that realm. You know? So that's where I'm sitting at today. I have no idea what's on the program, but all I know is that I'm pretty mentally tired today, just from, you know, moving all my athletes over to a new training app. So it's just, you know, a lot of admin work, like a lot of just, you know, kind of, I need to get this program to this person, get this going, you know, so just a lot of stuff that requires a lot of focused effort. So, you know, it's about almost like 3:30 right now, and I've just been working all day. So right now it is going to be a really freaking good lift, because it's almost like I just kind of need to move, you know. It's like, it's one thing to really focus on this stuff, but to actually move your body and just kind of get in the rhythm of whatever's on your program, that in and of itself is pretty liberating. So speaking of that, but anyways, we are en route, so not much else to say there, but I'll see y'all inside. All right, so we have freaking made it to the last set of lat pull downs, crazy 8 style. These are fun, man, especially with this kind of bar. It's like it's almost like an elephant bar for benching, except for lat pull downs, because it's just the style of the curvature, I guess. But that being said, this has been freaking blast. Now we're supersetting this with hip pulls, so we're just pumping a ton of blood into the back. But man, that being said, I guess the last thing we got to do is just freaking do it, man. I usually don't wear wraps for my lat pull downs, or at least, you know, most of the time I don't, but this kind of calls for it, because my forearms are kind of giving out, especially with, I don't know, I guess the thicker grip on the bar just makes it a little more forearm intensive. So that being said, let's just freaking go crazy here. All right, we had quite a bit of rest too, so we're gonna go just a tad, just a hair heavier. Jesus, those wraps, I should say wrist straps instead of wraps, definitely came in handy. I was hanging on for dear life. Actually, Yeah, we can fit the hip pulls in the frame. Two. Oh. Actually, it's actually easier without the straps on this one. Yeah, that's freaking good. Man, it's funny, it's actually, despite the decrease in carbs this week, my back's feeling pretty freaking full right now. I mean, even just standing like this just feels a little bit wider than last week, so yeah, that's a freaking win in my book. All right, so 5 sets later, we are freaking here at the 6th set of T-bar rows. Man, it said chest supported T-bar row on the plan, but man, I have been craving a good old-fashioned T-bar row. And another plus side is that my lower back is not feeling it too much, so I'm freaking happy about that. But tried 4 plates earlier. We got 6 reps. They were messy, but we got them. And now we're doing 3.5. We'll probably throw on, you know, just like a 5 or something, because, you know, I could probably go a tiny bit heavier through this. But man, those 11 reps last time, that was a freaking grinding set. But anyways, we got this last set to do, and it's nice because I've been doing bent over barbell row for the last 2 back days, and man, with this one, I mean, T-bar row, it's not much of a difference. All you're pretty much changing is just the positioning of the grip. And honestly, pretty much with anything that I'm doing, like a neutral grip, I mean, I'm gonna be 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna be a lot stronger with a neutral grip. You know, whether you're doing like a pull down or like a hammer curl, or pretty much anything where you have a neutral grip. Man, I can't even think of something that I'm not stronger with a neutral grip. So that being said, this is gonna be fun. We've been doing, I mean, I can't remember the weight that I was doing with bent over barbell row, but the T-bar row, man, I really have no reference point. So I guess this will be our first reference point in a while. No. Yeah, let's do a drop set. Oh. Yep. Oh. Come here. Oh. Oh. Ooh. Oh yeah, one more of those. One more of those. Oh yeah. Whew. Oh yeah. That's it. Lower back is taxing. It is maxing out on that. Whew. It's freaking good though. "20-minute timer has started. Y'all know the drill. If you want to personalize a Transcendental Meditation mantra, read the description below and meditate with me." boom, clap. I'm in my mom's car. Man, it is pretty freaking cool. I used to think of situations in kind of like a black and white kind of deal. You know, I'd think, oh man, either I'm completely on today or I'm completely off. But that is not the case. That's actually kind of a myth in the realm of psychology, apparently. You know, because we're creatures of habit, and we're also hardwired by evolution. So we need to see what we, you know, fear most, so that way we stay alive. So, you know, and we also kind of think of things in very simple terms. So it's not like we're trying to calculate the most complex things in the world. Sometimes it's just, I don't like this, I like that, you know. So I have actually, you know, thought of things in a very black and white way. And so what I mean by that is, I'll think, man, I'm in this nice flow state one day, and the next day, not so much. So I think this form of meditation, transcendental meditation, has really helped me kind of take a step back and just see things for how they really are. You know, there are going to be causes and effects. You know, there are going to be things that are kind of out of our control, but kind of having the awareness to see that everything passes. You know, the good, the bad, the ugly, and just kind of seeing it for what it is. You know, like the second you see that everything's gonna pass, you really don't need to get caught up in every little thing. And so I kind of had that today. You know, I was at work and I was a little late, so I was just a little anxious. You know, just it was kind of like this tight feeling in my chest. But the meditations really kicked into that point, because they helped me to see that anxiety is just going to pass. You know, that situation is just going to pass. And so kind of seeing it from that standpoint kind of helps me see that everything's all good. You know, everything is all right in its nature. You know, it's even the anxiety itself, like, all that's trying to do is just help you out. You know, all that's trying to do is just plan for the future so that you can not only be safe, but you can thrive. And so I thought that was kind of an eye-opener earlier today. But anyways, that was a great freaking back day. We did a little more rows than we needed to. There wasn't, you know, that many rows on the plan, and I'm not talking about the T-bar rows, I'm talking about the machine rows that I was doing. So that being said, that was kind of an eye-opener in and of itself, because it showed me how much I really want to grow my back. Now, that being said, was it necessary for me to do all those rows? I don't know. Time will tell. But that being said, if we're going by the principle that rest is going to help you to grow, which it will, then no, I didn't need to do all those rows. But it's kind of good to feel them out just in my mid-back, because I'm really trying to grow some density. I would say if I had more width or density, I would say width for sure. And you know, I'm not nearly as wide as I want to be, but that being said, I'm a little bit wider than I am denser in my back. So that being said, I tried to do kind of like a row movement that was, I just had my palms to the floor basically. It was this weird machine at the gym that I go to. And so I saw it and I tried it. It was pretty good. I don't know if I'd do it again because it was just weird, the whole positioning of everything. But anyways, You live and you learn. So, that being said, we got a big old arm day tomorrow, and I am freaking excited. And that's the thing about substitute teaching. You never know what your schedule is going to be unless you're doing like a multiple day job. So I have no clue what time I'm going to be hitting arms tomorrow. So we'll have to see about that. All I know is I'm going to go freaking crazy because I love to hit arms. I love to hit everything, but there's something about an arm pump that just feels freaking powerful. I don't know. It's hard to articulate, but anyways, good transcendental meditations today, earlier this morning, and the one just now. And man, it's in times like that where, you know, I'm feeling pretty anxious and I can take a step back and just see the anxiety pass. That is a testament to how important this work is for transcendental meditation. And I was watching a presentation on it, and the speaker was like this PhD in theoretical physics, and he was basically telling, or he was expounding on how transcendental meditation is very similar to quantum physics, just in the sense that quantum physics, you kind of work your way down from big matter to subtler and subtler and subtler, just smaller and smaller pieces of matter. And then you get to this point of this super unified field. And so it's pretty similar to transcendental meditation in the sense that you have these surface level thoughts, aka like thoughts that you just have on an everyday basis, and then you kind of work your way down to the deeper and deeper and deeper thoughts, like, you know, the really deep thoughts like, who am I, and what is life, and all of these different thoughts that are just, you know, like these huge questions, or just these, you know, very deep underlying thoughts. And so you kind of work your way down until you get to this realm of super unification in transcendental meditation, which is no thought whatsoever and just completely unified with your surroundings. And so basically in that presentation, he went into the fact that doing this practice regularly actually reduces your biological age by up to, it's something insane, like by up to like 10 to 15 years. So for like a, you know, let's say you're like 50 years old, biologically, you would only be 35 to 40. So that goes to show how powerful this practice is. And all you're doing is just directing your attention to the mantra. That to me, man, for the mind to have that much of an effect on the body, it's extraordinary. Plain and simple. I think it's really freaking cool. But anyways, not much else to say there. We got a big old arm day tomorrow, so I'll see you there. But thanks for joining, my friends.